Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now today's video, very refreshing for so many reasons. First and foremost, a brand whose products I just quite frankly haven't had my hands on in so long. So today, taking a look at knives from Schrade. Second, Schrade coming back to the US. That's what we're here to talk about today. So not just Schrade models, but models made in the good old USA. And last but not least, you just saw me with an OTF. I actually don't get my hands on out-the-front knives very often, so I have one here from the people at Schrade. Now we're going to look at a number of different models here, some great offerings from Schrade. I am really excited about this video today, and I am thrilled to bring it to you. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you, and if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Schrade who did provide these products for review. Now again, Schrade with products coming back to the United States. To me, that's a big deal. This is kind of going back to some of the heritage and really the roots where Schrade began. They've had a little bit of a hiatus, but they're coming around. They're actually fully rebranding, and interestingly enough, well, Schrade, part of the American Outdoor Brands lineup. Now I have here a number of companies to point out to you, Schrade just being one of a number in the American Outdoor Brands, and some great brands and products. So again, Schrade, UST, Gorilla Grills, which is really cool, Bubba, so like outdoor fishing, Uncle Henry, Old Timer, Thompson, Tipton, Wheeler, M&P, Smith & Wesson, Crimson Trace, a number of great products in all kinds of parts of the industry. So not just knives, but fishing, apparel, grills, really at this point, I mean, firearms, you name it, a great lineup and really, really cool brands. And so that's the first thing. I mean, when you look at what Schrade's doing now, getting back into the US manufacturing, this is fantastic. Now, the next thing I need to mention, they do have different lines. So when you look at the Schrade lineup, you're gonna have your Alpha, your Beta, and your Delta class. So the Alpha class products are gonna be the premium products, commanding the highest price, being made of really the nicer materials and full USA made products. The Beta class, some of them are going to be made in the United States. Some of them are going to have, I would say, parts sourced from around the world, but then assembled in the United States. So a little bit different. And then you end up with your Delta class, which is really all made overseas. So generally speaking, a number of different products falling into different categories, but at this point, let's turn the camera around and get into the details. And so as we get into this here, we're gonna look at 4 different models. Now I do need to say thank you very much to the marketing rep who sent these to me. These were his personal blades, and literally, if you kind of know what happens behind the scenes, usually the marketing rep only gets a certain number of products to hand out to reviewers. He had sent literally all of his products out, but found my channel, wanted to work with me, and sent me his own personal knives for this video. So again, thank you very much to the marketing rep at Schrade. I do greatly appreciate it. But here we have 4 different models. We have 2 from the Alpha class and 2 from the Beta class. So here as we take a look at this here, this one is the Radic. So again, the Radic, this is in the Alpha class. The Truix, again in the Alpha class. The Slight, which is in the Beta class, and the Uproar, again in the Beta class. Now, I have had an opportunity to really look at these in detail. I have only carried one of them so far, and it's been the Uproar. This Uproar is absolutely awesome. So again, an OTF out the front. This is called a dual or double action OTF. This is in the Beta class. It consists of an aluminum handle with a D2 blade steel. So as you look at it here, this is basically a single-sided blade. If you look at it real quick, you may think it's double-sided. It's not. That is an unsharpened swedge on the top. This is a spear point design, and the edge is pretty good. Not the sharpest on this particular model, but then at the same time, I mean, this is an OTF dagger style. So, I mean, do you really need it to be super slicey? For me personally, I would probably touch this up a little bit, but for the most part, I mean, this is really going to be, for me, pretty much a paper slicer, or just, you know, opening my cardboard and, you know, packages and things like that. I mean, very, very basic. So I don't need it to be incredibly sharp. And, well, bottom line is you'd probably have this in your pocket if you're looking for a little get-off-me type of blade. Generally speaking, great action. I mean, very strong deployment. As you listen to it here. You can fail this, so if you go real gentle and just kind of lean into it a little bit, it went all the way out, but take my word for it, if I just kind of bury it down into paper, that will fail. And at that point, it's basically a little bit of a safety, so you don't completely, like, you know, jam yourself. And just to reset this, flick it out and you're back into action. So this is a very nice knife. I am actually really happy to have this in my hands. I do not get my hands on OTFs all that often, nor do I really have a reason to carry them, but it's just refreshing. So again, this is the Uproar neat pocket clip. It looks to be reversible. I'm not positive, but I would say chances are it probably is. I bet you if you were to take this off and then pivot it around, you could actually make this right hand or a left hand dominant, which is cool. Taking a look here, you can see all the body screws going around on the outside, and then just that really nice mechanism on the back, really the way that this is bolted in, just a nice sort of chamfered locking mechanism to get that clip into place. It is a deep ride pocket clip with no hardware showing, which is cool, and it looks to be just a nice steel clip with a little bit of a relief there to get it on your pocket. Now I can say this definitely fitting in my pocket very nicely, no problem, has been excellent riding in my pocket, kind of melts away a little bit, and I like this very much. Schrade's branding here, you can see subtle but nice. I like the fact that it doesn't say the words. I do not like real heavy branding. This is about perfect in my opinion. But as I mentioned here, the DAOTF Uproar. Now next, again in the beta line, this is the Slight. Now, I'm not sure. There are two different Slight models. I think this is the full size, and then they have a Slight Compact. The interesting thing about this is it's really different from anything else I have personally seen or carried. Now, first and foremost, as you look at it from the side profile, pretty much looks like most other folding knives, but when you rotate it around there you go. Look how incredibly slim this is. This is basically like the frame of the inside of most frame lock folders, only without the actual scales. So this is going to be an extremely slim package. I do have a couple thoughts about this. I feel as though, and just in my opinion, that this real like thin profile lends itself better to the smaller knife. So if this is the full-size version, I would say the Slight, it's probably a little bit more conducive to what they're going for here. But at the same time, if you want just a good overall blade size with a real thin package, this will do it. But check out the action. Like crazy smooth. That's the first thing I've noticed out of these Schrades. Crazy, crazy smooth. Very, very nice. And so whether or not you have the alpha class or the beta class, you're getting what they call their Ultra Glide blade technology. So the Ultra Glide, so smooth. And I would have to assume if you looked into this, this is running on bearings. Now, personally for me, I kind of like washers, but at the same time, just having something that smooth, really nice. And just getting my fingers kind of out of the way here, you'll notice it is reasonably fidgety. Now, this does have a D2 blade. So you can see here, it's a Wharncliffe style with an unsharpened swedge on the top. Has the same sort of satin finish. And then as you look here, just that Schrade branding, D2, and flipping it over here, made in the USA. So again, some of the beta class, they are made in the USA. Again, others just have parts sourced around the world and are really assembled in the USA. But this particular knife here is made in the USA. Now, as we look a little bit closer into some of the details, the lockup here, I would say, is between 40 and 50%. I mean, it's getting pretty far over. And looking on the inside real close, this does not have any sort of like interchangeable lock bar. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is over time, as this wears in, it will probably slide further and further. So I would maybe like to see the lockup here just a little sooner, but at the same time, not a big deal. As I fully deploy this and getting on it, there is absolutely no blade play, no rock, nothing like that. Feels pretty good in my hands. Now it's gonna be, and I don't mean sharp as in gonna cut you, but I mean just sharp as in kind of just some angles, and it's a little bit, it's going to leave some hot spots if you're doing some hard work with this, simply from the standpoint being it is just literally so thin and you're bearing on the steel liner. But overall, you can see it has some standoffs, nice open design, has that deep ride pocket clip, yet it's got more like those button screws. They are not flush. In this particular case, you would not be able to go with flush screws anyway. At least I don't think so. It would be close. You might be able to get away with it, but that's going to leave a little bit of an interference with your deep ride pocket clip. Not a huge deal, but just something worth noting. So again, this is the Schrade, a very interesting design, and it's something that I'm going to have to just experiment with a little bit. Moving more into the Alpha class. This one here is the Truix. Now this has, and I guess everybody's going to say, oh, well, that's an axis lock. No, we can't say axis lock. So it is a crossbar style. They are calling it their pivot lock. Now, again, this is on their sort of ultra glide technology. So as we take a look at it here, nice deployment. It's really kind of soft. If you listen, not a huge loud smack. Kind of quiet in the opening. Now, this is S35 VN steel. Has a real nice machined and milled G10. Has a bolster here. I'm not sure if that's stainless or aluminum. It seems like it might be aluminum. I don't think that's titanium, but it is very nice nonetheless. You can see here, again, a deep ride pocket clip, but again, going with the button screws. Kind of wish those were countersunk, but again, not a big deal. Generally speaking, let's check the sort of fidget factor. Yeah, that's going to swing very free, nicely on the bearing, so no problem there. And so deployment and sort of retrieval, very nice. You can see that cross lock there doing a nice job. Now you do end up with a few different frame screws throughout. Pretty clean look overall. You do end up with a little bit of a lanyard hole, so a nice machine lanyard hole, and some jimping on the backside. That's actually machined directly into the liner. So as you look on the inside, it looks to be a gray steel liner, and then you end up with some jimping on the backside. It's an interesting look. I don't really know truly what the purpose of that is. However, if you were to reverse grip this, I guess that's kind of right on your thumb. So generally speaking, it aids in maybe a little bit of purchase when you're actually holding and using the knife, but at the same time, it could either go with or without it. It's definitely stylish. I think I like it, but at the same time, doesn't add a whole heck of a lot to the functionality, but this is definitely cool. So again, this here, the Truix, the Alpha class, made in the USA, S35 VN steel. You can see the Schrade branding on this side, made in the USA. And this here, having the Schrade name across the clip. I kind of wish it was a little more subtle just with the logo, but again, at the same time, not a big deal. And finally here, the Radic. So this is a very cool knife, actually pretty light for the given size due to the fact that it has these carbon fiber scales. Now these are kind of like a marbled carbon fiber, really nicely machined, very, very smooth and finished off, rounded and chamfered all over. And this again in the Alpha class, being made in the USA. This has S35 VN steel, nice, reasonably polished finish, very nicely done. You can see here the Schrade logo. And on the clip, this is more like a steel clip, so not a titanium clip. Sometimes more premium knives like this will come with titanium clips. This appears to be a steel clip, and again, a neat shape. It's sort of stepped off in the way that it's bolted in with these nice big bolts. Really cool. You do end up with great clearance underneath. It's not necessarily deep ride, but it's going to be deep enough in your pocket. You can see the steel liner on the inside. And again, you end up with that pivot locking system. So easy to get on. The blade play on this is phenomenal. Just super smooth. You can see I did fail it there, but not a big deal. Very smooth, feels really good. The thumb studs have plenty of clearance, but this is a large blade, so you kind of got to just get a little bit up on it. There you go. So very comfortable overall. It's going to be reasonably fidgety and a very nice blade shape. Generally speaking, with the Wharncliffe, really cool, has a little unsharpened swedge and just beefy. This has the ability really to get up on it with that nice thumb ramp, a little bit of jimping there. I kind of feel like for me, I would like to maybe have a little bit of a finger choil right here. I think a knife of this size could get away with it and be really comfortable. The grind, very sharp. So let's check this for sharpness real quick. That feels really good. So here, this feels nice on the Radic. The Truix is a little more broad. You can see this Tanto, a little more broad on the grind. Doesn't go quite as high up. This model might get away with having a slightly higher grind, but at the same time, feels like it's going to be a great utility blade shape. The Slight should be crazy sharp. I mean, this is super thin, feels really, really sharp. That's going to be a nice slicer. And again, as I mentioned with the Uproar, just a little bit dull, but not a big deal. And especially being an OTF, I am not totally bent about that at all. Getting each of these into my pocket here, the Uproar. So as I mentioned, I've been carrying this for a while, feeling really good. That pocket clip is fantastic. I love the way this just melts into my pocket. You can see definitely a nice deep ride all the way down. And again, I'm not incredibly sure, but I feel like righties or lefties might be able to pull this off. So again, the Uproar, fantastic. It's just been great in my pocket. Now here's the Slight. I haven't even carried this yet, but you can see nice deep ride pocket clip. So getting into my pocket, goes down pretty well, but as I suspected, it is getting hung up just a little bit on those button screws, and it does not want to go too much deeper. So you are losing some of the deep ride capability due to the fact that those screws are protruding, but at the same time, pretty smooth going in, and extremely, extremely flat. I mean, look how flat that is. I could definitely even get away with this in like my fifth pocket, and that's kind of cool. So the fact that the Slight is so thin, you could take it or leave it, but I actually think it's kind of neat. It's just different. So very interesting from Schrade. The Truix, again, deep ride, but let's see. Pretty much that will clear. So you can see nice deep ride. This is very grippy, so it might snag on your pocket just a little bit or beat up your pants, but at the same time, if you're beating up your pants with a folder, you're kind of earning it, and that's not a bad thing. So this does fit pretty well in my pocket. Reasonably slim overall, not a large knife, has a nice profile. Getting it in and out of my pocket, no problem. You kind of need to sort of take two swipes at it. So one to establish and the second to really get it seated. And you can see, because of those button screws, it's tending to kind of fold over my pocket in this particular case, where these are thinner, and it's not as smooth as I would like. So a little word to Schrade on that. It would be nice to see these countersunk. And last but not least, the largest of all of them, again, the Radic. So as we get it in, that clip is very stiff. That's a very stiff clip. It'll do it, but you can hear just how tight that really is. And it's grabbing. Again, I mean, that is so secure, it's going nowhere. There is absolutely no possible way this would fall out of your pocket. But again, It's fairly large and definitely snags. And you can see the shape of that. It definitely wants to grab. Again, not a big deal, but something worth considering. And out of all of these, hands down, in my opinion, the Uproar having the best pocket clip. That clip is perfect, literally perfect. Nice and wide, nice and deep, slides down smooth. I don't even think about it as I go to get this in and out of my pocket. It just is what it is. And that's kind of what I would like to see out of an OTF. So generally speaking, all of these pretty good, but I have to say, gotta give it to the Uproar. And so no matter what you think of any of these, bottom line is, in my opinion, Schrade is absolutely trending in the right direction. I am so refreshed to have Schrade knives, new Schrade knives, USA made Schrade knives in my hands. It's a company whose products I've just walked away from for a long time. And I started loving knives with Schrade. So to kind of rekindle the relationship and sort of come back around and have these in it, this feels so nice, by the way. This is a beautiful knife. To rekindle the relationship and have these in my hands and just be excited about this brand again, I am refreshed. So again, to the people at Schrade, thank you so much for providing these for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel's growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there, so if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.